Hey guys, welcome back to Let's Talk NASCAR, and this is another episode of Ripping the Boards. I'm your host, Sam, and let's get into the video today. It's going to be a little bit of a doozy, just to let you guys know. So, if you guys have been following NASCAR this season, back from last season, you would know that two teams are currently in a heated lawsuit debate with NASCAR. 2311 and FRM Motorsports are currently suing NASCAR in uh, for claims that NASCAR is a monopoly. If you guys have been watching NASCAR over its long history, you would know they are. They're definitely a monopoly. Um, but we know the reason why they're fighting so hard to stay, you know, to have things remain the same and have the teams just sign what they want to agree to is because if NASCAR was really had to if they really had to open up their books and be audited for real, not just some quick audit that they pay someone to do, that it would expose a lot of skeletons in their closets. We already know that most of the teams in the garage area are not happy with how things are currently run with NASCAR. Most of the teams will say that they have not been profitable for many years now. And the only reason that they are able to stay afloat is because they are heavily sponsored by many different companies for millions of dollars a pop. And the teams, they are saying that because of that, they have to start hiring drivers and different personnel who may not be the most uh, qualified, may not be the most talented in their position, but because they're able to light up a corporate, they're able to be in tune with a corporate sponsor or a partner, they have more of an opportunity than, say, someone who is super talented but just doesn't have that ability to woo corporate sponsors. And so, because of that, the industry as a whole um, has suffered. The industry as a whole has suffered. We can say that with certainty. We can say that there was a time where teams had the amount of funds just off TV revenue alone to where they could just hire whoever they wanted. Um, and also, it provided a lot of continuity between, sponsors. It used to be that you could recognize a team or a driver, or a car based on one specific sponsor, and that was true for most teams into the early 2010s. You know what I'm saying? But then we really started to go the route of tracks getting more funding through the TV money, and most teams, they only get paid through their winnings and I think merchandise sales. They don't get any of the ticket sales. They don't get any of the TV money. Well, they get a smaller portion of the TV money than they should. And a lot of these tracks are just pocketing some money. They're not investing in it. Like, for a long time, that was the case. A few of these tracks are actually starting to invest, back into the sport and to put that money into renovating the tracks so they actually would be better for events and it would be better for the entire industry as a whole. But we had a whole new agreement that basically didn't change all that much. We saw, I believe, we went from the teams getting 25% and the tracks getting 50% to, I believe the tracks now get 40% and the teams get 30% of the total TV revenue over a 7-year span, valued at about $7.7 billion. And that may sound great, but when you have only 36 fully chartered teams, fully chartered teams, and we used to run 43 teams. We used to have 43 teams. It was mainly, for a long time, it was 40 full-time teams, and you had 3 open spots. But we didn't have charters until 2016. That's when NASCAR came up with this system and implemented it, saying, oh, we have these teams to where we have these charters to where teams who have charters are officially locked into every race. They get a certain bonus in winnings. They get a certain protections that open teams would not get. And so that's why it's so important for especially newer teams that have less experience being in the racing world and may not know exactly how everything may go, to have that kind of protection, because it's really risky to run a racing team. A lot of things can go south for you. You could have loss of drivers. Drivers could get injured. Drivers could get hurt, or worse. Or they may just not want to be a part of your team anymore, and you might have to find someone else who is not as talented, right? Sponsors come and go. We've had many big time sponsors that have entered the sport and now are no longer a part of the sport. That's just a way of life. Sometimes, they're here for a season, they're here for a reason, or they're here for a long time. But if you look throughout the garage, most of the sponsors that we have not been here that long. Most. Some have even come back, but for a reason they left. And so you have to keep that in the back of your mind. Another thing is personnel. Personnel changes throughout the garage a lot. And so sometimes you have a guy, say, go from Hendrick to a Gibbs or a Legacy Motor Club or whatever. And that information is being spread throughout the garage, and certain things end up being melded together. And so you see a lot more teams just running very similarly. There's a lot less corporate identity. And so when you have that risk of everything being so close, you don't really have much that can differentiate yourself. And so when you don't have something that can give you a competitive advantage that you worked hard for, that could also help to make your race teams suffer. And there's many other things that could cause a team to collapse. And so having something like a charter system to where you have these guaranteed liberties is extremely important. And even those who would be fine without it being here also would say that for the protection of the teams, the protection of their assets, and so they're not selling their assets for pennies on the dollar to someone who's just willing to come in and swoop it up. For that case, they need these charters, especially now more than ever. And so when you have NASCAR, who is this rule with an iron fist approach, especially how it used to be, which worked for a long while. It worked for a while. To where it's our way or the highway. You will adhere by our rules or you can get the hell out. And for a long time, that's definitely has worked. You know, you have a strong leadership up top who you have one voice, one main voice from the top who disseminates information to everyone in the industry. And that is really important. As a matter of fact, that could still work today if it's done properly. But when you have a lot of different voices and they're spreading a lot of confusion, like how it is today, and it seems like whoever is running the show is not the actual face of the show, that there are hidden figures, hidden agendas, aka the Friends family. We used to see Big Bill's vision for the sport. Now we get down to Brian France, who left the sport officially because of drug abuse and legal issues. And so morally and PR wise, it wouldn't be a good move for him to still be in charge of NASCAR in an official role. But he probably is still in charge of NASCAR with his family on a behind the scenes role. Because we have Jim France, his uncle, who is the official CEO of the sport. And he's done some good things. But overall, we can agree, NASCAR is a monopoly. And it's a lot like this country. We see record sales, record TV revenue, record income. But those who are actually boots on the ground in the industry are experiencing, the drivers make less than they have 10 years ago, even 20 years ago. Like less actual dollars. And the strength of those dollars are way less. So we have to see these drivers do a lot less. Like they do have to do a lot more just so they can get less. We have drivers saying, the drivers of the past saying, like, man, these guys, their corporate responsibilities are way more than what we ever had to do. And then they still have to go prep. And they still have to go, they still have to have a little bit of time for their families and everything. And like, it's more than what we ever had to do. We've had guys like Elliott Sadler, Dale Jr., Tony Stewart saying stuff like this. So they're having to do more with less. And they're getting less. Don't you think that we should be paying the faces of our sport? I certainly think so. The faces of our sport. No one comes to see the France family. No one comes to see NASCAR as an industry. They come to see our guys. They come to see Chase Elliott. They come to see Ryan Blaney. They come to see guys like Bubba Wallace, Kyle Larson, and, interesting talents like Noah Gragson, Ty Gibbs. They come to see guys like Carson Hocevar come and tear it up on the track. And beautiful cars don't mind. No one cares about the corporate side of the sport. We should. We should care. But no one comes every week to see the France family. No one comes to see the higher ups at NASCAR. They need the faces of the sport more than the faces of the sport need them. And until they see that, we're just going to continue going down this rabbit hole. It's plain and simple like that. So I hope you guys have had a wonderful day, or having a wonderful day, depending on what time you see this. You can follow me on Let's Talk _NASCAR on Instagram and Twitter for more about me and more about the sport. I need to get a little bit better about posting and, doing all that. Just been kind of busy with other things going on in my life. Maybe if you guys are interested, I can tell you a little more about my personal life. But for right now, we're just talking about racing. Yeah, all NASCAR, all the time. This has been Ripping the Boards. I'm your boy Sam. See you guys in the next episode.